Oh.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs, and welcome to season and episode number 796 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Do. Always 100% Canadian. Today, recording day is Tuesday, November 25th, 2025, and it looks like it's going to be an okay day here at the Beaver Lodge. Maybe a little gray. It's still a little dark out there, so I can't tell. But we've been getting a lot of rain lately, which is nice because we didn't get a lot over the summer. In October, we almost got 100 millimeters, which is more by far than any other month at any point this year. And November has been nowhere near as rainy, but still a solid 50 probably or close to that. So good for the water tables and all that stuff. So not complaining, although at this particular time of year, as the days are getting shorter and you know gray and gray and gray. It can get a lot. It feels like February a bit in a way, more than November weather-wise. Except no snow on the ground yet here. We had some snow earlier, but it melted, of course, and with the rain and stuff. But I can't tell because it's not light enough out yet whether or not it's a cloudy day or whether or not. But the sky kind of looks like it's bluish, grayish. I can't tell. I'll have to wait a couple of minutes more. But it is sunshine here at the Beaver Lodge, kids and cubs, because I don't know about you, but I'm still buzzing about that conversation with Mr. Bill Kelly yesterday. Um, that was a really, really, really nice moment for me, and it's almost a one of those magical kind of moments because the conversation just flowed so easily. And I mean, it even started like, pre-show, when we met in the green room, we were chatting and we just got into it. And it was sort of like, well, my God, it's like you let's bring this into the show because we're already getting into it. And, we had a lot of good stuff already that we were saying that you guys didn't get to see. It was almost like a picking it up in the middle of a great conversation that had already started, and the time just flew by. And I mean, there's so much more I wanted to ask him. It was just very easy and very pleasant. So it was one of those sort of moments that happens now and then that just um, there's a connection and just an easy flow of conversation back and forth, and it was just an enjoyable experience. In fact, yesterday as I was preparing this one, you know, thing came up in my feed, and I just gave it a little listen, a little bit to see, how it came across afterwards. And, it was 20 minutes later, and I was still watching, and I had a big smile from here to here on my face because it was just like, oh my God, yeah, that did feel good, didn't it? So I'm buzzing a little bit on that, and I am definitely hoping, and I have an idea or a notion that will be the case. But I'm definitely hoping that there will be future collaboration and interactions, and opportunities to converse with Mr. Kelly, because I very much respect his opinion, and he's just a great he's just a great guy. He's so I hope you enjoyed the conversation. I saw a couple of comments on about it that were very kind and positive, and thank you for that. But that was just a joy. I have to say that was just a joy. There are days I always love what I do here, but there are days where I particularly love what I do, and yesterday was such a day. So. Without me asking how your mental health is today and me saying it, that's a little bit where I am. I am feeling really good. Uh, and I did the introduction in wholly different order. So I believe I'm supposed to say I am your host, the eager beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, hey, and not with me as usual is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corbin Moon Publishing, and Psychic Tarot CA. Kids and Cubs, how is your mental health today? I hope it is doing well. I'm just taking a little look on the side here because, oh, wow. Well, look at that. Compliments. Douglas looking awesome today. It's it's the blowout hair. I've got volume. And red is usually a good color on me too, so that kind of helps. And well, I am also really happy and in a great mood, and usually that helps with the look. If you feel fabulous, then you are, darling. Ah, lovely to see all the kids here. I haven't done a hello kids for a while, so let's take a look here and say morning to the Dan fam. Kit Elaine, Kit Miss Shattuck is here. Kit Argosi Acres is with us as well. Kit Nona is here. Oh, it seems that YouTube might have changed the things because everybody has a number. Yeah, for those who don't watch on the live stream with the chat at the time, every now and then YouTube decides that it's changing all the handles of the people who are chatting, so nobody really knows who's who sometimes. And today is such a day. We have Kit Linda M with us. We have Kit Tabby G with us. Who else do we have? Kit Playing with 3D is with us. Hey, good morning to you. Nice to see you. Kit PNC Bio is here as well. Uh, Kid PNC Bio, perhaps say the words "Oh Canada," because every time I hear it, all I hear is "Here comes the bride." Ah, I like that. Okay. Yeah, I now that you mention it, I can kind of hear it. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. Let's see what else we have here. Kit Saucy Sea Witch is with us. Kit Jen is with us as well, as is Kit Ill today. Good morning to all of you. Kit Lori is with us. Good morning. I hope oh my God, I hope I'm getting, if it's not you, I'm so sorry, but I think it's you. I hope you're feeling better and you're on the mend. And we have Kit Tim as well. All right, that's everyone. Let's get into it because we have a show today, kids and cubs. There was a big announcement coming out yesterday that it seems that the official unveiling of what is in that much touted MOU about a pipeline allegedly going to the West Coast, allegedly, that Danielle Smith really wanted and was really pressing to get very quickly. Um, that's going to come on Thursday, it would appear. Now, there's been lots of talk and there's lots of things sort of leaking in the news about what may or may not be in it. It seems that the broad outlines from what we can see is that um, I'm getting federal government won't quote unquote stand in the way if Alberta is able uh, to find a proponent, of course, because the ball is in her court. He did that already. But I guess Alberta, there's going to be some language within it with regard to Alberta having to secure um, or do the consultation that is necessary with First Nations. I'm not sure how far it's going to go in terms of saying you must secure the approval of, or but at least have the consultations and doing it in a meaningful way. Also consult somehow with BC, and Premier Eby is really upset because it kind of came out that the Premier of Saskatchewan, Scott Moe, was consulted in some kind of way about it. And there were lots of Scott Moe appeared on Power Play and on Power and Politics, and then on Primetime Politics on CPAC. And I think Primetime Politics on CPAC was the third time because um, by the time he got there, his answers were much more polished in a one unit that had less stammering and stuttering and left less opportunities for people to attack or question. So he was saying, on Power and Politics or on Power and Play, he would say one thing, and it would be how you put it. All the ideas were there, but it wasn't rehearsed and assembled in a package. And you could see that the more that he was giving that explanation, the more he took off the rougher edges. And by the end of the day, it was one sort of political full talking point, right? That was sort of where anything that was sort of inconvenient or noise in the message had been removed slowly over the course of the day. Um, but in these three interviews, um, he is asked point blank by everyone there how much input he had, what was his role really in all of this, because it seems from the reports that were coming out that he had a seat at the table with regard to these negotiations, which would cause a very, very big problem without British Columbia at the table. Columbia has been making its feelings known, so have the coastal First Nations. Seems to be happening on just like one side of the ledger. Okay, Danielle, you really want a pipeline? Well, here are the parameters of the sandbox you're going to have to play in if you want this type of pipeline. And if it was that type of negotiation, it would be one thing, would still create a situation that would get some backs up on the other side. But in this particular situation here, uh, if Scott Moe actually had a seat at the table for this part of the memorandum in any way in terms of shaping it, and BC didn't, you can understand how that could become somewhat of a sticky situation. So this is the CPAC one by the time he's got his answers down pat. So you won't hear the stammering so much. Um, but I want you to pay attention very closely to what it is that Scott Moe is trying not to say, because he's saying a lot of things, and if you put it to, it kind of sounds good at first. Yes, but we're going to go into some of what he's saying and explain why it's bullshit. But um, pay attention to the question specifically being asked and what he is trying not to say, while not disavowing that somehow his opinion got factored in. All right.
Last week, you said you were involved in talks between Alberta and the federal government. Can you clarify just what exactly Saskatchewan's role has been in these talks as they've been ongoing?
Yeah, we wouldn't be, a direct signatory or anything to any type of an agreement that might come forward. However, we very much are supportive of Premier Smith's moves to become the proponent for this project and start to bring the conversation forward. And two, on behalf of Prime Minister Carty, we commend him for being open to having discussions around, some unconsulted policies that came into place under his predecessor that simply are unworkable and are hindering us achieving his aspiration of not only becoming a global energy superpower, but obtaining or getting to a point where we'd have the strongest economy in the G7. In order for that to happen, we need to be, as provincial premiers and as a federal government, supportive of each and every project in each and every industry in each and every province. And we certainly are supportive of all the projects that we see that may be constructed here, whether they be in British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, or any other province across the nation. And I think that is what it truly means to be on Team Canada, is for us to support all of the projects, regardless of where they are in the industry they're within.
All right. Let's stop that right there and let's go through that answer a little bit. All right. Scott Moe was asked by the journalist in question. Hold on. Just there we go. He was asked specifically, last week you said you were involved in talks between Alberta and the federal government. Can you clarify just what exactly Saskatchewan's role has been in these talks as they've been ongoing? Scott Moe starts with, yeah, we wouldn't be a direct signatory or anything to any type of agreement that might come forward. However, we are very much supportive of Premier Smith's moves to become the proponent of this project and to start to bring the conversation forward. What involvement? Well, we wouldn't be a signatory, but we support what she's doing. Yeah, but what was your involvement? He doesn't want to say. He doesn't want to say. And in all three interviews, he works very hard not to say. Because we were at the table, or we were consulted. Well, we wouldn't be a signatory. We didn't ask if you would be a signatory on the MOU. We asked you, what was your role exactly? He's working very hard not to say that. And in the other interviews, it is much more obvious. The interviews were maybe slightly longer than this one because this is a half-hour show, and the Power Play is an hour show, and Power and Politics is a 2-hour show, so the interviews can be a little longer. But yeah, this is not. He really does not want to say why he's at the table, and he works very hard in the longer interviews. He is asked, he's pressed on this question several times here, and each and every time he does not want to acknowledge that he was at the table, which kind of lets you know that somehow he was at the table, especially, seeing the reaction of the premier of British Columbia when he out and says that, like, I'm not clear, was he at the table? Because you need to tell me he was at the table. The other thing that he then says, that Saskatchewan supports the projects of every other province. And so, suggesting that that's what being on Team Canada really means, and that therefore laying the groundwork for some gaslighting, that it is Premier Eby who is the problem here. Now, I'm going to tell you why, in my opinion, this is bullshit. Because if you support every project from every region in Canada, if that's the premise that's being used here, right? That's what it means to be on Team Canada. You have Premier David Eby that has some very, very concrete projects that are ready to go. And they have the consent and the approval of the Coastal First Nation. And the foundational condition on which these projects rest upon is that there will be an impermeable tanker ban in that area. Now, out of right field, suddenly comes Alberta stating, I want a pipeline on that major projects list and I want it by the Grey Cup. There is no galaxy dimension, universe, alternate reality in which a pipeline project that would have ready to have shovels in the ground within 2 years. And there's not even a proponent saying we want one. That's going to happen in 2 months to get that before the Grey Cup. It's just a stupid timeline. Right? If we're talking about projects that are likely to be approved and that have buy-in of First Nations and that have a green component to it, she's got none of those 3 criteria. None of those 3 criteria. So in she comes saying, hey, let's do this thing. Let's make this thing happen. Let's go. Chop, chop, chop. We need to make this happen, or it's a national unity issue. I think, give me something. Give me an MOU. Take down those 9 bad laws. Gimme, 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 gimme. Never saying what she's willing to offer, of course, right? In exchange. Just gimme, 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 gimme. And that requires lifting somehow that tanker moratorium on which all those projects in BC that are ready to go foundationally rely. You don't even have a proponent yet. You don't have a route yet. You don't have buy-in from First Nations and you don't have any buy-in from British Columbia yet. But yet you're going to come and throw that right on the table and ask for that MOU and get it now. And I have no idea why Prime Minister Mark Carney has given that to her now, unless it's like some time of 40 chest, give her enough rope to hang herself type thing. But it's like, I'm not sure what that does for Elizabeth May's vote on the budget later on. And I certainly don't know what it does for relationships with First Nations. And I certainly don't know what it does for the 20 Liberal seats in British Columbia when they only have like 1 or 2 in Alberta. Doesn't seem like a great political trade-off here. But if you are a province that supports every other province's project, you don't come in with a fever dream of a project that you might want that's maybe like 8 years down the road before a shovel ever gets on the ground and put it on the table right now, upending 4 projects at least from a whole other province. And then stand up in front of the camera and go, well, we support all projects and I think everybody should support ours. We don't understand why David Eby won't support ours. Because you're just sliding in with a fever dream of a concepts of a plan of a project that are going to kill 4 of his that he's worked very hard on getting. Maybe that's why he's not amenable to your idea. So it's this weird Jedi mind trick that they're doing here, that they are the ones sliding in, putting the projects in BC at risk, and then saying, well, we should be supportive of everybody's projects, as they are actively trying to sabotage the 4 that exist. And on some of the shows, he tried this I think it was on the Power Politics. He mentioned that, and I think that's what Team Canada is, that he went back to that line 3 times in that one interview because he was skating so hard and it wasn't working for him. By this time, you see he's got it all properly packaged that it flows in one unit. But the gall of being one of the two people who actively look at BC and say, you know what, you're getting close to completion on this, on these deals. Let us torch all of that. And then as we are like running away like this with the match in our hand, go to the camera and go, I don't believe why, I don't understand why they don't support our projects. We should be supportive of everybody's projects. Don't look at the fire back there. Are you effing kidding me? I, I have no idea how David Eby hasn't got to a mic and swore a blue streak right now. What those two are doing. But yeah, especially like there is so much stuff about the way that this is being done that is just leading to opportunities for misunderstanding, opportunities for hurt feelings, to get your nose out of joint, all that. The, uh, how would I put it? There's not a lot of diplomacy. It seems like there's like, how do we shut Danielle Smith up? And I understand that there's a strategic component to try to put the ball in the court, and that probably, like we asked in previous shows, this all smoke and mirrors because what's going to be in this memorandum ultimately it's going to say, yeah, you can get your pipeline if you can do all these things that we know that you're not capable of doing, not willing to do, or if so you absolutely must get that permission from that coastal First Nation. That coastal First Nation says, listen, we've been telling you for like God knows how long, no, decades. And every time we tell you no, you just come back and try to climb up on top of us all over again. It's like we said no. No means no. Just F off. Right? If it's absolutely conditional on that, then it's never happening. So, I mean, you have an MOU, but you have one in name only. Right? So we'll see. But it seems that the overall mix of this is going to be that Danielle Smith is going to have to willingly put more provincial money into that pathways thing. That's for carbon and capture and storage, in order to get what she wants. And she's going to have to be okay with a beefed up industrial carbon price thing. And at first, you would think that this is stuff that would like send her screaming. But you have to remember, and it is a fact that it doesn't get mentioned a lot, that Alberta was one of the provinces to introduce some type of industrial carbon pricing. I think they did it in the mid 2000s. And when Jason Kenney got rid of the consumer carbon price in Alberta and didn't want to go there, apparently, I would have to double check this, but I did hear this in some reputable media, but I haven't double checked this for myself. So take this one with a grain of salt. But he himself had then boosted the industrial carbon price in Alberta rather than go that route. And it would seem that industry is kind of okay with that as well, because it's a nice, clear pathway. It's not, doesn't involve too much additional bureaucracy. And, if you can set it and, and stick to it, it is predictable and they can plan for that. And that's what they're asking for. They're asking, they understand that we are going to go this way, but they want some stability and predictability. And there is psychological difference for the consumer. One of the, Pierre Poilievre's attack with regard to the industrial carbon price isn't landing as hard as the carbon tax one, the consumer one, because we're not paying it directly. It doesn't show up on the bill directly. It's not top of mind for us that way. And we've had these industrial carbon taxes for a while, and Pierre didn't mention them prior, right? It's only now. So he didn't. He hasn't done that work, and we've already seen the consequences or the results of removing the consumer carbon tax, and the price of food didn't go down like he said it would. So that line is not working for him as well the second time around as it did the first, for all those various reasons. But Alberta has already shown an openness to this route. So it would seem counterintuitive that Danielle Smith would go for it, but there's really no reason for her not to, right? Because that is kind of the system that was there in Alberta. They just want to boost it. So it seems that in exchange for allowing that industrial carbon tax or carbon pricing to be boosted in a significant manner, and for putting more provincial money into that pathways thing, that's what she's going to have to give. And then, of course, the responsibility would be hers to do the appropriate negotiation with British Columbia and First Nations and find that proponent. And if all that were to happen, then the federal government could consider or would consider or might consider using Bill C-5 um, to override the tanker ban in that specific area, but not eliminate it completely for certain things or a certain amount of shipments coming from that pipeline, um, which again is a non-starter with that coastal First Nation. Um, but all the other hoops that Danielle would have to jump through before it would ever get to a point that Mark Carney or any federal government would have to say, okay, you've met all the conditions. Okay, we'll lift that thing. Uh, Probably are very unlikely to happen. And number two, probably would take such a long time to happen that Danielle Smith probably wouldn't be premier anymore by the time anybody would say that. And in that case, it could be a smoke and mirrors thing. Now, one would have to then wonder why Danielle Smith would be okay with this following. And, well, why now? Right? And there's been some weird stuff happening. Like Danielle Smith has been expressing optimism, but like around the time of like November 14th or that type of stuff, the Alberta Environment Minister Rebecca Schultz was going up to podium saying, we haven't seen anything happening like this. They better do something fast, or we're going to be really upset, or whatever it is that. But what Danielle Smith was usually saying in front of a microphone, Danielle Smith wasn't saying anymore. She had given that to her environmental minister, so they were doing that good cop, bad cop type thing. Danielle Smith hasn't been talked about a lot in the press, but has a very important event happening from November 28th to November 30th. Mentioned it once on the show, but she has a leadership review coming. She has a leadership review coming. She wanted it before the Grey Cup. I guess that she could go around the province for a couple of weeks and touting, look at my MOU, look at my shiny MOU. How do you like me now? A leadership review. The previous leadership review, I guess, which was in a year ago, November 2024. I don't know if they do one every year or something, but the previous leadership review, she got 91.5%. She's been having some issues lately. Let's say she comes out of this leadership review with 80. 80 is still high, but it's 11 points down from 91.5%, though, right? So, I mean, she needs to do well, but she needs to do very well because, however far she gets from 91.5%, the discussion then, the predictable discussion can be about the spread. How much is she losing ground, losing grip, losing favor? So she doesn't want that to happen. So we've had the notwithstanding clause on the 3 transgender things. That suddenly became very urgent to use that recourse that should be of last resort right now. Especially because she wasn't necessarily sure she's going to get that MOU in time for the leadership review. So she threw a little red meat at the base. And now it seems that she's going to have this MOU. That she's going to be run around So 26th, 27th. She will get it on the 27th, and the AGM starts on the 28th. My. How convenient. There might be another reason that Danielle Smith wants that or felt the need that she really needed that right now. There is stuff that's going on within the UCP caucus at the moment. And uh, Danielle Smith might need to do a little damage control, possibly. This is from November 4th, and there's been an update but this is from November 4th. Don Braid, and the UCP government passed the Recall Act in 2021. Now it's aimed straight back at them. They seem surprised and annoyed, but they asked for it by writing rules that allow a recall campaign for almost any reason. Many people now organizing these drives didn't previously have the slightest interest in recall. That was a core demand only within the UCP. But now the organizers are delighted to turn recall against the government, mostly in furious response to the use of the notwithstanding clause to end the teacher strike. Recall doesn't necessarily lead to firing. If a signature campaign succeeds, it triggers a by-election in the riding, and the challenged MLA must get more than 50% to keep the job. But for targeted MLAs and especially busy ministers, these challenges will be a huge pain. They'll have to run survival campaigns between general elections, and Premier Danielle Smith's majority is only 7 seats. From the UCP perspective today, they made a big mistake in that 2021 law. It does not specify any grounds for recall. There's nothing about an MLA being immune to challenge except for serious violations of ethics, code of conduct, conflict of interest, downright thievery, or other such obvious disqualifiers. The Elections Alberta website states, quote, "There is no set criteria. The only requirement is that the applicant provide a statement of 100 words or less on why, in the opinion of the applicant, the member should be recalled. Your request can be refused if you write 101 words. Otherwise, you're good to go." The model for this Alberta Pure eruption is Thomas Lukasik's stunning success in collecting 456,000 signatures for his Forever Canadian campaign. Organizers figure that if he can get that many province-wide, surely they can sign up thousands in one riding. The required number is 60% of the votes cast in the last election. A list of recall drives so far: an approved campaign against Edmonton Minister Dimitrios Nicolaitis in Calgary Bow. Another is about to get the Elections Alberta OK for Airdrie East against UCP member Angela Pitt. In Calgary Northwest, a third is shaping up against Indigenous Relations Minister Rajan Sawhney. Paperwork has been submitted against Multiculturalism Minister Mohammed Yassin in Calgary North. A website called Operation Total Recall cites efforts in Camrose, Jacqueline Lovely, and Strathcona Sherwood Park, Nate Glubish, Minister of Technology and Innovation. Let's see. If all of those were approved, that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. She's got a 7-seat majority. In Nicolaitis' formal response to his Calgary Bow tormentors, he said, quote, "A recall of an MLA should not proceed when the statement reason is dissatisfaction with government policy rather than a failure in members' core duties. Recall should be reserved for breaches of public trust, ethical violations, and dereliction of duty." Well, gee, I guess you should have put that in the law, but then again, you wrote that law when you were afraid that the NDP would form government again, and you wanted to make it real easy for yourselves and your bands of minions in order to be able to get rid of NDPs. But now that the leopard is eating your face instead because, well, you pushed too hard on the separatism thing and you motivated the wrong person for you, the right person for everybody who's thinking and rational, to counter that and outmaneuver you. And then people saw that, wow, one guy and a team of willing and dedicated citizens, the only thing that has really made change, according to Margaret Mead. That type of effort successfully collected 456,000 signatures and taught everybody in the province of Alberta who are a little tired of being stomped on and bulldozed over that, you know what, hey, it actually is possible and maybe we could do it too. And well, yeah, they seem tired enough, people seem tired enough of your government in certain areas that they would like to recall the MPs or the MLAs, I should say. And there might be enough people that would want to do it in enough electoral districts that you could lose your majority. So technically, that would be a recall of your government. Now, wouldn't it? The law was designed so that for no stated reason at all, enough dedicated people that wanted to make enough noise in pretty much every electoral riding could just turn around and say, hey, we want to recall, and then just upend the will of the people. You wrote the law that way. And you've been in power all this time, and you decided not to revise it because you never thought it would be used on you. But now you've been governing the last few years, chin up, ass out. Hyper confident that you get to do whatever you want, when you want, how you want, and bulldoze over whoever you want, and that it will never have any consequence. Well, it seems that there are consequences, and you're finding out. In Nicolaitis' formal response to his Calgary Bow tormentors, he said a recall of an MLA should not proceed when the stated reason is dissatisfaction with government policy rather than a failure in the member's core duties. Recall should be reserved for breaches of public trust, ethical violations, and dereliction of duty. He'd obviously love that to be true, but there's nothing of the sort in the Recall Act. Nicolaitis himself was gung-ho for recall back in 25, right after the NDP was elected. He said on Twitter at the time, I prefer recall that is available regardless of the motivation. It should be available with no strings attached. Recall should be legislated at all levels of government unless I'm the one being recalled. Tom Braid, sounds great until it's aimed at you. There we go, same mind. Don't expect UCP supporters to just shrug this off. They will be tempted to start their own drives to recall NDP members. Ultimately, though, they could look far back to history of their own precursor party, Social Credit. The first Social Premier, William Aberhart, was elected in 1935, but by 1937 he was in deep trouble with his own Okotoks High River riding, mainly for failing to pay promised Social Credit dividends. A recall movement popped up and looked serious enough to eject him. Aberhart did the obvious. He repealed the recall law retroactive to its passage. Social Credit went on to win 8 more elections. Will the Premier allow recalls to threaten her 7-seat majority? Not one ghost of a chance. Interesting. So, yesterday, there was something rather interesting that happened while I was on Twitter. There was related to this that had some interesting developments, and these interesting developments could explain why it is that Daniel Smith really, 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 really wants this MOU sooner than later. It would seem that there are not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, but six, potentially six recall actions that might be going forward. That is some jarring news. According to Elections Alberta, 18 hours ago, Alberta's Chief Electoral Officer Gordon moved petition applications to recall the following 6 members of the Legislative Assembly and determined all applications meet the requirements of Section 3(1) of the Recall Act. Electoral Division 11 Calgary Fishery Miles McDougall, not on the list in that article from November 4th. Electoral Division 14th Calgary Hayes Rick McIver, not on the list in that article. That list of the article had 6. Those are 2 new names. That makes 8. Calgary North Mohammed Yassin was mentioned in the article. Electoral Division 21 Calgary Northwest Rajan Sani mentioned in the article. Electoral Division 35 Highwood RJ Sigurdsson not mentioned in the article, and Electoral Division 75 Morinville St. Albert Dale Nally also not mentioned in the article. So these are 6 that have gotten the required signatures and it's been approved. There are 6. 4 of them were not on that list on the November 4th article. So if the 4 in that article also eventually get the signatures that are required and the meeting all other recommendations, that makes 8. And if all 8 of those lose, that's the end of Danielle Smith's majority. So right now, November 24th, 4 days prior to going into her leadership review, there are 6 of her caucus who now face the very real possibility of being recalled. And if all 6 happen, leaving her government with a 1-seat majority. That usually doesn't bode well for your leadership, does it? So having a nice shiny MOU to point to might be very convenient. And I'm sure that Mark Carney, the negotiator that he is, knew that. And I wonder what Albertans would think if this is the case. Albertans who, in particular conservative voting Albertans who like to talk about negotiating a position of strength, would feel about their premier coming to the realization that their premier entered into that MOU not from a position of strength, but a position of real big weakness because she needed some type of distraction to prove that she has leadership skills. And if that is indeed an MOU that allows for a pipeline, but with conditions so strict that it's really just a theoretical pipeline that will never actually happen, she's got a victory, but what's its worth? Now it's going to depend on whether or not enough people ask enough questions, and whether or not they have enough time to go through all the ins and outs of that memorandum that's going to come out on the 27th before the leadership convention on the 23rd, 28th to 30th. So the fact that this MOU is coming out the day before the leadership convention starts rather than a few weeks earlier, which Danielle Smith seemed to really, really want when she wanted it before the Grey Cup, and that Danielle Smith has not been screaming bloody murder. Maybe Danielle Smith saw the advantage in not giving people too much time to ask too many questions about how that MOU was written and how it would actually work in real life. If we did a tabletop test of, the MOU as it is written and went through what it would be, the process to actually get a pipeline approved and on that major projects list, what would that look like? And statistically, what are the odds of that happening? Especially considering the delightful personalities of the players in place. Yeah. Daniel Smith may have agreed to something that is shaped to precisely not give her what she wants in order to get through this particular difficult moment. And if that is indeed the case, that might bite her eventually. 'Cause eventually, somebody is going to do the work of seeing when she has that shiny MOU and she's been talking it up and talking it up and talking it up. Somebody who really, really wants that pipeline is going to be, and is serious about it, is going to be doing the work of finding out or trying to figure out, given that MOU, how likely it is that a pipeline could be built under the conditions to which she agreed. And if that person has credibility and influence and sway, or if several people do that work and arrive at the same time, Danny, you're gonna have some splaining to do. Oh my God. Now again, I'm assuming here, right, that Mark Carney is a very talented negotiator, and and keeps his cards close to his chest, and that type of sense, and doesn't unveil too much. So, you know, if that is your strategy, you don't go up to a mic and say, "Oh yeah, I'm setting a trap for her." It's just like you don't. So what did he say? Right? You don't tell the person you're setting a trap for that you're setting a trap for them. So, oh yes, yes, I'm happy to negotiate an MOU. Oh yes, absolutely. Here, you give me this and you give me this, so I can go out to the public and say, hey, I'm a different type of liberal government. I'm far from Justin Trudeau. I'm the best progressive conservative prime minister this country has ever had. Here you go, open to a pipeline. No, here are some conditions. Absolutely. No, no. If you can get this done, we're absolutely willing to talk about it. But yeah, here are some conditions. Have fun with those, though. Right? In that sense, Mark Carney doesn't have anything to lose, and he actually might, again, pull some more of that, you know, blue conservative vote to him. Um, but there is a risk. However, there is a very, very big risk in terms of the 20 seats in British Columbia and how David Eby is going to react. And Mark Carney, could very well go to David Eby and say, "Don't worry, hey, dude, don't worry, relax. It's never going to happen under these conditions. Trust me, I set it up." Um, but that still doesn't help, because Danielle Smith will never stop shutting up about this, and they will make the First Nations absolutely and completely get their backs up. Now, this is not entirely terrible for David Eby either, right? Because there's some caucus management problems within the BC Conservatives as well, right? The BC Conservatives have split. They've lost a couple of people. There's some that have formed another party called One BC that apparently has no other reason for existing than to criticize trans stuff and claim that, Canada was not stolen from Indigenous people. Canada was built. And that's about their own two major platform things. It's just we hate trans people and we hate Indigenous people, and and a whole bunch of like white guilt stuff, and that's it. It's literally just a party of grievance. It's a party that has no reason for existing whatsoever, but it does. And then we had this whole episode a while back about all the stuff going on with the BC Conservatives. There are people that have left the party and have been ejected. Same thing with the UCP, by the way, right? We are not talking about them as much, but Peter Guthrie and I think Scott Sinclair, I believe his name is, if I'm not mistaken, both ejected from the caucus, that are now joined the Alberta Party and tried to change its name to the Progressive Conservative Party, the party that Bonnie Critchley is joining to run when she's making the leap to provincial politics. So you got all that stuff going on in Alberta too, but you got this whole mess going on in British Columbia as well. We had people kicked out of the party and all that kind of stuff. And since we last talked about it, there was this whole weird thing about elected members' cell phones and stuff being searched by the party. It was just weird stuff. But there's a lot of people that want John Rustad to go as well. Now, in polls, the BC NDP and the BC Conservatives are still close together, but it's that same thing with the federal thing, right? After an election, a certain time has passed. There's a gap that narrows between like the Conservatives and the Liberals. We've seen it at the federal level. But then again, if you're looking at like who do you like more, which premier and all that, which prime minister, it's Mark Carney over Pierre Poilievre by like over 20-point margin, right? And this is similar here with British Columbia. The parties are close in the polls, but I mean, there's so much turmoil in the BC Conservatives, that David Eby, definitely is taking advantage of that, and this type of issue coming along. Well, hey, I'm fighting for BC and I'm fighting for our pristine coast and I'm fighting, for First Nations and respect of UNDRIP and all that kind of stuff. Gives them a just tailor-made NDP issue to grab and fight for and elevate his profile. And that's one of the reasons that there's some word on the tweet talk that the BC NDP might be looking to go into an early election, even though it just recently had one, but could be looking to have another early election and maybe finish Rustad off, and maybe that would cause a bigger split and rift between the BC Conservatives, which were a union of various factions that were disassembled at one point, and you know there is some political strategic maneuvering in all of this. So this is not entirely. We could get to a situation. I heard some commenter pundit to say, I think it might have been Chantal Hébert, saying that David Eby could become the new Daniel Smith, right? The premier that's fighting with Ottawa and always often going after Ottawa and whatnot because Ottawa's being unreasonable and whatnot, because Mark Carney is now creating a situation where Alberta can get some of the things that it wants. Again, regardless of the probability, if he's saying that he's open, that's something that can be spun by another party, right? The Bloc Québécois is going to definitely be having a field day with this as well in Quebec, right? So whether there's the strategy of creating a situation that's impossible, but creating the illusion of potential pipeline with this concepts of a plan so Daniel Smith can save face somewhat and live another day, or whether or not this actually is a real push for a pipeline, there are consequences. It almost doesn't matter in the other sense, because the people who are anti-pipeline are definitely going to take this issue and run with it as if Mark Carney is guaranteed absolutely that he will be taking a pipeline and financially backing it, and whatever the right can do, the left can do as well, and spin it as that, and that might not necessarily be what it is as well. So, but he's a bit in that bad place that Trudeau was in, where when he had to do TMX, when he lost a lot of political capital on that, and because no matter what he did, even though he did manage to bring in carbon pricing and bringing it in a legally sound way that couldn't be challenged and all of that kind of stuff, and did move ahead with a lot of things, he did that one thing that was just unforgivable, right, for many people on the other side. And this may be a similar thing, the deal that Mark Carney is getting into. But I'm guessing that his gamble here is, buying peace with Alberta and maybe clawing a couple of more percent away from the Conservatives in national polling with moves like this. There's also a full aspect of this that's, and this applies also to the major projects office things, that is, and sorry, and also his talks on the international scene. There was a really good one in South Africa, and I'm hoping to bring you some stuff from it. But this topic sort of came up instead, and sort of bumped that to another day. There's a lot of this that, yes, it's for us, but it is communications targeted to the international investment community, right? They're watching him go. There's a reason that he's going to all these countries and he's able to sign these deals, because his messaging is just as much targeted and directed to the international investment community as it is to us, and on certain days probably even more so when he starts to get really technical and whatnot. The political junkies like me and people that like politicians that are willing to explain things and show their plans are looking at it as a plus. But he can lose a lot of people with that as well. And often I believe that's a strategic choice that's being made to ensure that, as I say often, you not only have to do the thing sometimes, but you have to be sure that you are being seen doing the thing. So that type of language and that type of messaging, as he is doing the thing, that may not always be the most accessible for everyday Canadians. When that happens, that might be messaging that he is, yes, for us, but also dual messaging, sending outwards to the investment community. Look, this is a really good place to invest. We are stable. We are predictable. We did hear your concerns. We are acting on them. Look at us act. Look at us how fast we are acting on them. Don't be afraid. put your money here. Like this, and you don't have to wait until we've done these things to put your money here. There's lots of money to be made in us actually doing these things to get us to the place where we need to be for you to invest even more after that. So, come one, come all. And I've seen some conservative commentary about that stuff. It's like, oh, Mark Carney is pursuing all these costly deals and stuff. And when conservatives say costly deals, in this instance, when Mark Carney is going out to negotiate deals where people want to bring foreign money into Canada to invest, it's like the it's not costly for us. What they mean is that Mark Carney is going to where the money is, and they don't like that, so they call it costly, right? That deal that he's making with the UAE, that's going to bring about $70 billion of investment. Yes, it's the UAE. Yes, there is the stuff that's going on with Sudan, but yes, we also have a country south of us saying we want to decimate your economy and we want to annex you, and next year we could possibly pull Kuzma right out from under you. We already don't like that you're talking to Sweden about those F-30 F-30 Gripens rather than the F-35. So we sent out Ambassador Fuckface to actually give the message that the F-35s is linked to the success of future trade negotiations. Which nice try, but I'm not sure that at this point in the game that has any impact or effect on us, because everything that we have done so far has yielded us absolutely nothing. So what are you going to do? More nothing? We don't hit if somewhere along the way something we had appeared to conceded got us something very tangible that we could like run around and say, hey, we got this, and we could point to it and claim an achievement, maybe. But there's been no willingness on your part, so why would we suddenly decide that we are going to spend all these million in your country? Say if you don't, you might not, that might affect the trade deal, when we did everything on the border and we like humored you on your fentanyl claims and whatnot, and none of that has yielded anything. Right now where we are is we have more tariffs than we had before. You're not talking to us, and what? It's like, um, I'm sorry, but you can say that all you want, but that doesn't threaten us anymore because we've done everything that you've asked. And right. So we might be getting at that point. There was a little moment that the prime minister had some frustration, in that South Africa presser, where he was being asked by a CBC journalist, you know, uh, when's the last time you talked to Trump, and that kind of stuff, after being there and having all these achievements in South Africa, again, which we'll get into in another show. Um, and everybody gloating that the fact that the United States decided to sidestep this one was creating an opportunity for everyone like this. And then somebody comes and starts asking about Donald Trump. And it's like, we've been taking advantage of this opportunity that he's not here to forget about him. Like, ask us what we did, right? But also the question of like, have you talked yet? Have you talked yet? It's like, clearly they haven't, or if they have, they're not going to talk about it publicly. But I mean, there is no new information. So somewhere along there, and they frustrated, I guess the prime minister said, "Who cares?" And the conservatives tried to run with that yesterday. It's like the prime minister says he doesn't care about the impact of the policy. No, he didn't say he doesn't care about the impact of the policies, Pierre. So, but we care. It's like, no, you don't. You really don't. So and I get him. Like, I was sitting there when he was asking that, when are you talking to Trump? And I was sitting there, I was watching the whole press thing, and I was thinking the same thing. It's like, oh my God, why are you asking about him? He's not even there. Just like, who cares? you know? Uh, um, so, but yes, he did create the opportunity by, being somewhat flippant with the words, even though if you're listening to him saying like everything that Pierre is saying, that he doesn't care about Canadian workers and he doesn't care about, no, that's not what he said. It's just a matter of when he talks to Donald Trump. Like, who cares? Like, Donald Trump is having a snit fit. We'll talk when we have to talk. I have no burning issue, which he's saying as well. He goes, well, we have this trade thing that's a burning issue. Yes, but there's nothing about the trade thing that's moving forward or backwards or anything at this time, right? The talks were called off and they threatened another 10% at some point down the road. The other 10% hasn't come, and the talks haven't formally started yet. And there's nothing major else that has happened in the world, and we are trying to buy time. Remember, shh, don't tell the Americans. So it's like, what pressing issue? What burning issue? Why Donald Trump has made it clear he doesn't want to talk to us right now? Then fine. It's not like we don't have enough to do. So again, yes, it was probably not smart to say who cares. But he's not saying anything a lot of us aren't feeling either. That's like, this guy clearly doesn't want to deal. Who cares when we talk? Well, we got other shit to do right now, and I'm right here doing that other shit. Can you please ask me about that? So, but again, I'm going off on tangents here today, but basically, a lot of this messaging is directed at the international investment community as well. So we always have to keep that in mind. Mark Carney is talking several languages and talking to several different audiences at the same time. And this is different for a prime minister because we normally don't have to do this much active formal foreign relations. But given again that our economy, someone's trying to upend our economy, circumstances make it such that our prime minister is much more foreign focused than domestic because the situation particularly calls for it at this particular time. It's a set of very exceptional circumstances because usually we're much more compelled with domestic affairs, and there's almost no votes to be gotten on foreign affairs and foreign relations in Canada. But in this case, yes, there is a lot in this case. So we're watching all of this develop, and we have these. So we're going to have this pipeline MOU that's coming down, and gives Danielle Smith an opportunity to save face. She clearly did not negotiate this from a position of power, particularly with all the drama in her party and basically citizens revolting. We're pushing back against what it is that she is trying to do. She has now apparently a friend in Mark Carney, but a new foe in David Eby. So she gets to that person that she gets to fight and battle against all the time in order to, keep that side of that thing going. David Eby gets a foil and gets a gift issue for him that allows him to run that might help him defeat Rustad. So all that's going on one side. And also a development, which is interesting. It would appear that with regard to what is happening with Danielle Smith, Nenshi has stepped into the fray here. And in a way that has people commenting that there are finally some quote, signs of life is an actual quote. This is a video, the announcement or commercial type thing, promo, that came out 11 days ago. And then it's kind of laying the groundwork here that if Danielle Smith is thinking about going into an early election before the scandals get too much, that the NDP and Mr. Nenshi are ready and have thought seriously about through line.
Stuff costs too much. Groceries, rent. When I was a kid, I made change at my family's laundromat. Every quarter was important. I cleaned toilets toilets at the family's motel in Red Deer. And as the Alberta economy went up and down,
This was the year the recession was supposed to end.
sometimes we were poor, and sometimes we were very poor. My family couldn't even afford to go to my sister's graduation, but she went alone and in a $19 dress.
Our parents stressed selfless service. Nahid had incredible opportunities in New York. He came home. He stayed here to make things better for all of us.
It's Nenshi. New mayor paints town purple with decisive win.
Today, Calgary is a different place than it was yesterday.
Of course, you need
A flooding crisis. Mandatory evacuation.
completely underwater right now.
By Calgary's
People in the community will get through this. That flood we pulled together, and what a privilege to lead Calgary to be named one of the best cities in the world.
Danielle Smith has been in the tightest election in Alberta's.
But now, too many Albertans are treading water.
Hard to live in Alberta now.
Danielle Smith promised to lower prices.
Prices in Alberta are sky high.
My groceries have doubled in the last couple of years.
Almost everything.
We're now having to dig into our savings.
She promised better schools. We got the lowest education funding in the country, and she engineered a teacher's strike.
Schools are in chaos right now. How about you try being a teacher, Danielle Smith?
She promised integrity, but we got corruption. She said she'd fix healthcare in 90 days.
And it's been 1,000 days.
The wait time is ridiculous.
10 hours to get an x-ray for one kid and 6 hours to get stitches for the other one. Earmuffs, kids.
That's bullshit.
And what's she doing? Going to Mar-a-Lago to surrender to Trump and bringing Trump's playbook of division, distraction, cruelty, and chaos. Right about now, you may be asking yourself,
The heck will you do, Nahid?
I'm fighting to bring back the Alberta advantage. More jobs and more money in your pocket. Housing that you can afford. The very best public education system in the world. Public health care that's always there for you and your family. And I'll make you one promise. I will never pander to the separatists who want to destroy us. I believe in Alberta. Unbreakable. First, never last. Albertans, it's time to get active. It's time to get loud. Join us. I'm Nahid Nenshi, and we are Alberta's New Democrats.
So yeah, there you go. Looks like that. Again, I don't know how many people are going to see that and how much exposure it's getting, but that is a pretty good package. Tells a good story there, and you can see the overall through lines where they would go if there was a campaign, where their major policy planks could be oriented. It introduces Nenshi in an interesting way, because there's a whole, he came to the attention of the entire country and even the world when they had those floods in Calgary, and he did a great job as mayor. But that wasn't all across the province, right? I mean, the news got around the province, but he wasn't taking action all across the province. It didn't necessarily affect people all across the province, and and it was a significant enough time ago that there are people that may arrived in Alberta since then that weren't there for that, or become a voting age since then, that was not necessarily in their public consciousness. So it brings some of that stuff back as well. But in there, what he stands for and what he won't, what he won't do, where his red lines are, and that type of stuff. It's a pretty good message, and there's some, not. How would you put it? Some firm digs and criticisms in contrast with Danielle Smith, but nothing that is mean-spirited in that ad. Drawing contrast without being mean-spirited is sometimes tough to do in politics, and it's achieved there. So Danielle Smith has her hands full at the moment. This pipeline MOU, again, we have to wait to see what's in it. And and there are going to be some better minds than mine that are going to look at it and give us an idea of what this animal eats in the winter. Once we get to see it and it becomes real. And whether or not a pipeline is an actual possibility, or again, just an illusion of one. But for the moment, there is seemingly warming relations with the government of Alberta, and but yeah, Danielle Smith not negotiating from a position of strength here. Plenty of reasons for which she would need something shiny to distract from some major issues that are going on. And again, if it is an illusion thing, at some point, somebody's going to figure it out and the jig's going to be up. So she might just be buying herself time here. The question is, how much political capital will it cost Mark Carney along the way? That's going to be an issue, and that will be an issue in Quebec and in British Columbia, where the Liberals do have a certain number of seats. Not sure that there's enough for them to gain potentially in Alberta and Saskatchewan by doing this. But again, we'll take a look. But yeah, interesting stuff going on behind the scenes. Talking about some caucus damage control on the other side of the country in the province of Quebec, there's also been a whole bunch of stuff. Now, before we get there, I want to issue myself a gentle correction because I saw a comment in the chat from Kasasi Seawitch talking about Shannon Stubbs from the Federal Conservatives, where Sasi says, I think her previous statements were a bit unhinged in the past. However, I don't think it's appropriate to go after someone recovering from major surgery. And I expressed some doubt on the show about her not being able to vote remotely because of the surgery, because I was sitting there and thinking, well, okay, yes, you have jaw surgery, but how hard is it to click on an icon? It would appear that remote votes have to be voice votes, specifically, not just clicking on an icon, but they have to be recorded voice vote. And therefore, if her jaw is shut and she cannot speak, then she cannot record a voice vote, and therefore it is in fact legitimate that she couldn't vote because of the surgery, because you can't use your voice. So that was a little tidbit of information that didn't get a lot of publicity, and I had heard it at one point. It says yes, those votes need to be voice votes, and that explains why it is. It wasn't just a matter of going into an application and clicking yes, and then going back to rest. She literally could not vote. So thank you for mentioning that, Kisasi, because I've had that piece of information for a few days and I kept on forgetting to put it into the record there. All right. So in the province of Quebec, there's something really weird going on. If I'm understanding this correctly, in the province of Quebec, the Liberal Party of Quebec is led by Pablo Rodriguez, who used to be a minister in Justin Trudeau's government. He won the Quebec leadership for the Liberal Party, is trying to create some distance in certain ways from the Trudeau government, and the Quebec Liberal Party also wants to create as much distance from its past with regard to the Charbonneau Commission and what happened with campaign donations and that type of thing back in the day. And then out of the blue, it would appear now Pablo Rodriguez doesn't have a seat in Parliament. So it's sort of, if you're thinking about, think of the days when Pierre Poilievre didn't win his seat and Andrew Scheer was the leader of the government in the House, was the government leader or the House leader. The person who was doing that for the Quebec Liberal Party, her name is Mara Risky. And it seems that she did have leadership aspirations at one point, but she also has a young family and decided to pass on the last opportunity to run for the Liberal leadership. But she does have leadership aspirations. I'm not sure if this plays in this in any way, shape, or form. But about 7 days ago, she was suspended from the Quebec Liberal Caucus for a breach of trust. Now, she's the MNA for Pontiac André Fort, sorry, breach of trust. And when she was suspended from the caucus, um, the MNA for Pontiac, André Fortin, replaced her as the parliamentary leader. So they call it parliamentary leader in the Quebec House of Assembly or Assemblée Nationale, National Assembly, I should say. But this, according to just CBC News here, Quebec Liberal Party leader Pablo Rodriguez has removed Marois Risky from her role as parliamentary leader and suspended her from the Liberal caucus after a breach of trust, the party announced in a statement Tuesday. Rodriguez named Risky parliamentary leader in June. His decision to relieve the MNA from Montreal Saint Laurent riding from her duties comes in the midst of firing her chief of staff, Geneviève Hintz. In Montreal, Rodriguez confirmed the breach of trust relates to Risky firing Hintz and replacing her without consulting him beforehand. Quote, "It came as a total surprise to me and to the members of the caucus as well, so in my opinion, it's something very serious," the Liberal leader told the reporters on Tuesday. He said that on Monday he questioned Risky, who was accompanied by a lawyer. Rodriguez added that Hintz is someone he has a lot of respect for on a personal and professional level. Quote, "I think she must be suffering a lot at home. I have no idea why this happened," he said. Radio-Canada sources say Hintz's dismissal, announced to other caucus members Monday evening, stems from a personality clash between her and Risky. Risky refused to comment on Tuesday. André Fortin, MNA for Pontiac, has been named parliamentary leader, and La Fontaine, MNA Marc Tanguy, will serve as party whip. Patrick Huot, former MNA for Vanier, will be Fortin's chief of staff. Rodriguez and Risky have known each other for about a decade. He recruited her to be a candidate for the Liberal Party in Hochelaga in the 2015 general election, although Risky lost by fewer than 500 votes to her NDP opponent Marjolaine Boutin-Sweet. During his leadership campaign for the Quebec Liberals, Risky and her husband, fellow Liberal MNA Gregory Kelly, supported Rodriguez's candidacy, with Risky saying in May that her mind and heart were made up for months to back the former federal cabinet minister. Risky announced last year she would not seek re-election in 2026, opting to step away from politics to spend more time with her young family. So here, so the party leader in the assembly itself fired the chief of staff. Now here it says it's firing her chief of staff, but the thing I'm not clear about here is that even though it's her chief of staff because she is the party leader, was it a chief of staff that was picked for Pablo Rodriguez so that when he became leader, she would then, and of course, and enter the House, that she would be his chief of staff and that she was fired without Rodriguez being informed. And it's like, well, why did you fire my hire without telling me? Or whether or not it was Risque's chief of staff herself that she decided that she was firing. And just didn't tell the party leader before doing that, and which you probably should give a heads up because there could be some fallout that happens as a result. Now, parallel to that, it seems that there is news of another scandal that has happened that apparently, from what I can understand, is that there was cash for votes within the Quebec leadership race. And there's a word going around called brownies related to it, or in French they say billets bruns. And that relates to the fact that the amount of money given was about $100. So a brown bill or a brownie. Un billet brun means a brown bill, so a brownie. Yeah. Apparently there were that seem to indicate that is on. There is No, from what I can tell, there's been nothing yet that has indicated that these text messages are authentic. And the reason we say that is that it would be very easy, for example, for two people to buy burner cell phones, create a text conversation, and then release it. Or even you could probably generate, as another announcer had mentioned it on a panel discussion, you could probably generate that type of conversation using Chat GPT and then release it. So nobody knows whether or not, at least I think in the public knowledge still as yet, whether or not these text messages on which all of this has been based on have been authenticated yet. But this, according to Annabelle Oliver of CBC, Quebec Party leader Pablo Rodriguez announced this week that he's putting the Journal de Montréal on notice over an article published earlier this week. This has been one of the responses, and might not be the best response here for Mr. Rodriguez. The announcement came after the leader convened his caucus on Montreal on Friday as the party is beset by a series of crises. The French language daily published excerpts of alleged text messages that suggest the party members were financially rewarded for voting for Rodriguez in the last leadership race. The Journal de Montréal said it consulted messages exchanged this spring between two individuals who were actively working to elect Mr. Rodriguez as leader. The alleged text messages refer to the sale of membership cards and money spent to get people to vote for Rodriguez. Rodriguez said the intent behind the formal notice is not to uncover the newspaper sources, but to discover who was involved in the purported vote buying scheme. In addition to the names of those involved, Rodriguez said the party wants the telephone numbers associated with the text messages and an explanation on what the paper did prior to publication to verify the authenticity and veracity of what was alleged in the messages. Rodriguez said Liberal MNA for Chomde Sona Lacoyan Olivier informed the caucus that she is also sending a formal notice to Cogeco after her name was mentioned on a French language radio show in connection with the allegations. Rodriguez said Olivier reiterated her innocence, saying she was not the person who wrote the text messages. Québécois, which owns the Journal de Montréal, has not yet responded to a request for comment. Rodriguez also took a moment Friday to defend the party's handling of the situation. He said the first they heard of any irregularities was on Tuesday evening, and they have since called for an external investigation into the matter. According to the Election Act, however, giving someone money to influence their vote in a leadership race is not illegal. Let me repeat that. According to the Election Act, however, giving someone money to influence their vote in a leadership is not illegal. That news came as a surprise to many, including Premier François Legault, who expressed his skepticism earlier in the day on Friday. Quote, "I was very surprised to learn that it could be legal," he said. "If that's the case, we won't rule out intervening because it's outrageous that in 2025 they're saying it's legal to buy votes with $100 bills." So yes, apparently, now I'm not sure whether or not this is the Quebec Election Act or the Federal Election Act here because it's not specified. But under the Election Act, I'm going to assume it's the provincial one here. Yes, after the Charbonneau Commission and after all of that, apparently it is still legal to buy votes in a leadership race. Now, of course, a party would then have to record those $100 bills as election expenses, and they would have to be recorded and show up in the ledgers, but apparently it was not legal. Apparently it is legal, sorry, not illegal. So that surprised a lot. Now, this is a gift for François Legault, who, the leader of CAQ, is in the bottom. The party is in the basement. He can take this and, oh my God, it's outrageous. I'm going to pass a law and pass a law out loud and, create a good moment for himself. This is something that should be done. But, for a party that is tanking in the polls, this is a gift-wrapped opportunity to do something good and get some positive press for a while. I'm not sure if he's so far gone that none of it will make any difference, really. But hey, at least he's going to have an opportunity to get a couple of good days press out of it. Rodriguez maintained his party's leadership was conducted properly. Quote, "Like everyone else during the last leadership contest, we were all convinced that it was..." What? Like everyone else during the last leadership conference, we were all convinced that it was illegal anyway, Rodriguez said, and the campaigns were conducted precisely with that in mind. I'm not sure what he's referring to. Probably the previous leadership contest before the one he ran in. If everybody's saying we're all convinced it was illegal anyway. I'm not sure if there's a typo in that because that sentence doesn't make sense to me. He called on all the parties at the National Assembly to unite and quickly revise the electoral law to put an end to the practice. The allegation surfaced just one day after the party suffered another blow. The Liberal leader party suspended MNA Marwa Risky from the Liberal caucus and relieved her of her functions as the party's legislative leader over the unilateral firing of her chief of staff earlier this week. Geneviève Heinz has previously worked with Rodriguez when he was an MP in Ottawa. Rodriguez said at the time that Risky should have consulted him, a position he maintained on Friday. Quote, "I still don't know why I wasn't informed," he said, adding he didn't want to comment further as the matter seemed headed for the courts. On Friday afternoon, Heinz filed a lawsuit in Quebec Superior Court seeking $500,000 in punitive and moral damages from Risky. It comes after a back and forth of lawyers' letters between Risky and Heinz. On Wednesday, Risky was sent a lawyer's letter on behalf of Heinz, giving her 24 hours to acknowledge she had fired her without grounds. But in a response letter obtained by Radio-Canada Friday, Risky's lawyer said Heinz is well aware of the reasons that led to the termination of her employment. The letter also states Heinz's dismissal was due to significant ethical breaches, which are compounded by, quote, repeated acts of insubordination. Now, the thing that is going on here, first of all, with these $100 donations, some commentator, I think it was Hélène Buzetti, made the point that if you do the math, and that's another reason why people are doubting potentially the authenticity of the text messages. If you do the math and you consider the number of votes that Mr. Rodriguez got in the leadership vote, and you've multiplied that by 100, let's say every vote was purchased, the amount would be so exorbitant that there was no way it would be possible that the party could afford that. Now, was it strategically, if it was done, was it strategically done maybe in because they do the writings and the point system, and in writings where there's maybe not a lot of liberal voters, you can get those 100 points, let's say, for that writing, maybe with 6 or 7 votes or 10 or 12 votes, right? If there's not a lot of people and there's not a very active liberal association there. So were those used in those instances? Again, nobody knows. But it seems unlikely that this would be the case. And in both cases, the leader of the party does not know why, how this happened, or even the allegations of the $100 or the brownies, as they're called. And in the case of Heinz, doesn't know why Risky fired her, and Risky didn't call him to let him know. So there's a portion of this that makes him look weak and ineffective. Which is not great, especially less than a year going into a provincial election. On the other hand, with the information that he has, he did remove Risky from caucus in a rather firm and quick and decisive manner, and then called for a legal inquiry, some type of inquiry into the actual $100 donations, the alleged donations, which is about all the guy can do at this point, and also joined the from Legault to make it illegal that you can buy votes in a leadership contest. So, I mean, that's about all he can do. He's been doing some media and going to different places. He went on Tout le monde en parle. That may not have been as well advised because he seems not to know anything and doesn't have much to say. So, in such instances, it's usually better to talk less than talk more. But yeah, it's a weird situation for him in that sense, because he's not in the house, he's not there, and all of this seems to have been happening under his nose. Yesterday, it is, yes, or 2 days ago, Risky finally spoke out after her suspension. And I'm not sure if we got too much more with anything that's pertinent, however. And this is according to Harry Noth of the Montreal Gazette. MNA Marwa Risky, the Quebec Liberal who was suspended from caucus last week after firing her chief of staff, spoke out Sunday evening for the first time since that dismissal threw the Liberals into turmoil. The Saint Laurent MNA said in a Facebook post that the last few days have placed my political family in a delicate situation, and it was right for Quebecers and journalists to have questions, but she insisted she was legally prevented from answering them. Quote, "The matter concerning me is a human resources issue, and our laws do not allow an employer to publicly comment on an employee's file in the public arena," she wrote. Risky, who was first elected to Quebec's National Assembly in 2018, said that she was not the source of media reports last week triggering controversy, and she had followed the rules throughout the decision-making process. She stressed that none of her Liberal caucus colleagues had been informed beforehand of the firing, adding that only the legislature's Human Resources Department had been involved. Quote, "This proves that I was not pursuing any political agenda," she wrote. Last week, Risky, who at the time served as the Liberals' parliamentary leader, fired her chief of staff, Geneviève Hens, and ally of Quebec Liberal leader Pablo Rodriguez. Hens has said she was dismissed without explanation and has taken legal action against Risky. Still fresh from assuming the role of party leader over the summer, Rodriguez responded by removing Risky from her role as parliamentary leader and suspending her from caucus. The suspension is for an undetermined period. However, Risky said in her statement she had acted properly. She wrote, quote, "I would like to point out that if he and the new leader of the official opposition, André Fortin, believe that the decision I made in accordance with the rules that govern us is not the right one, they are free to rehire the former chief of staff." The Quebec Liberals, who in the latest Léger poll were 10 points ahead of François Legault's governing party and just five behind the Parti Québécois, faced another firestorm last week with allegations published by Le Journal de Montréal about a vote-buying scheme in his leadership campaign. That article was based on text messages. Le Journal says it obtained between two people involved in the race. It did not name the individuals behind these text messages. Rodriguez has denied knowledge of the allegations. He moved to appoint an external auditor to investigate the matter. He also said the party would issue a legal notice to Le Journal to explain how it verified the authenticity and veracity of these messages. Earlier Sunday, Charles Milliard and Carol Blackburn, who both lost to Rodriguez in the Liberal leadership contest, publicly backed Rodriguez and urged for calm within the party. So that is an interesting development in there too. Now, so we don't get much from Marois Risky really as to why that she did it. And, things are before the courts because, yeah, no wonder she was sued because Geneviève Hens, right? So I'm guessing here, reading more, that she is indeed Risky's chief of staff, but just because she was a very close ally of Pablo Rodriguez, this became more difficult. But this person, Geneviève Hens, who was publicly fired, well, not publicly fired, I guess fired, but now that it's gotten public, the day before this news about $100 and text messages come out, right? Whether let's say this is a real thing. Let's say it is a real thing, but we don't know if it is, but let's say it is a real thing. There's no way to not make the association. There's no way not to make the association that somehow she had an involvement in this. And by Risky not firing her and then having a press conference soon after and stating publicly why it is that she had been fired. For days now, Hens's reputation has been allowed to just be hanging out there in question. Was she fired because this thing about these texts are authentic texts and there really was some type of scheme, and was she involved somehow? That question is out there. So Risky is, by not proactively coming out and making clear in a public manner why it is that the person was fired, has created this situation for herself. Now, if the reason for which she is fired is so terrible that there are legal reasons related to that and that she can't say, that's one thing. If she can't talk, if she's talking about that she can't speak for legal reasons because of the lawsuit against her from Hens, that's another thing. But that's what I mean. It's like, why is it she brought it to the human resources people and she didn't try to make a big stink of it? But apparently there is some issue. And both the leader of the party and the person who was fired allegedly don't know what the reason is. According to Marois Risky, the person that was fired knows very well the reasons why. But yeah, it's a jumbled mess. And it is, I think it was, again, Hélène Buzetti that said that it's kind of sucks for Rodriguez in a way because it's like fighting ghosts, right? The text messages that may or may not be authentic, firing of a chief of staff who's an ally for reasons that are not publicly disclosed and that he does not know, firing in such a way that he didn't know it was coming. While simultaneously, there is news of a vote buying scheme, which is particularly not great for Quebec Liberals in light of everything that happened in the Charbonneau Commission. And he's sitting there going, I don't know about this either. It's like, it's like call in the auditors, figure out what happened. But there, what are the actual claims and who are they being made by, and how do you respond when you don't have those bits of information, right? So in one way he looks terrible, and another way the guy is doing pretty much all he can do based on the information he claims to know, when the amount of information that is out there in the public domain as well. uh, so yeah, it's a really weird situation going on in Quebec here. But again, Pablo Rodriguez trying to do damage control as best as he can um, against, Jello trying to be nailed on to the wall. I guess it's just this amorphous set of allegations that you can't really address yet. So yeah, it's coming out in a weird way, in a very weird way, but it's definitely, um, you know, getting the attention of the press. Um, so you've got Daniel Smith doing some damage control from some caucus events in Alberta. You've got John Rustad doing some damage control from events going on there in BC, and again, David Eby doing some damage control for what Daniel Smith and Scott Moe perhaps threw on their plate. You got Scott Moe doing some damage control, trying not to say at all that he had any role and was not sitting at that table for those negotiations, and working so hard to do that, it's making him look like he really was sitting at that table for those negotiations, because if you weren't, you would have no problem saying it. You wouldn't have to divert and deflect. And that was, I only showed you one half of the response, right? There's a whole other portion of it where again he's deflecting and diverting again because he was pressed in every interview. He was asked the first time and then pressed, and then tried to deflect with another thing, but anything not to say that he was sitting at that table. And then federally, of course, you have Pierre Poilievre that has been having his caucus things as of late, and seems to have tampered them down for now. But seemingly just not on message with everything, or not slightly in the different time zone when it comes to everything that's going on. Sometime around before November 14th, when asked about this type of stuff with the Memorandum of Understanding on the oil thing, he was quoted as saying, I suspect some sort of quote unquote memorandum, something. Memorandums don't pay the bills. We need shovels in ground. So Mark Carney should get out of the way and tell us on what date will shovels be on the ground, adding a million a day pipeline from Hardisty to Alberta to Prince Edward or Kitimat, British Columbia. And again, this is just dumb rhetoric. Okay? On what day? Tell us on what day. There's not even a freaking proponent. There's no route. Consultations haven't even begun. Nobody can give you a day. Like, this is all that he's, but doing that diminishing thing again, right? Memorandum of Understanding. Well, memorandums doesn't pay bills. Until there's shovels in the ground, it's not real. So again, right? The dental program, it's not real. Nobody's registered. Now we got 6 million registered. It's just been announced. But this is Pierre's go-to, right? There are no shovels in the ground, so it's not real. But this, it hurts him, right? Because if he's not on message in any way, shape, or form, right? He's trashing this, and Danielle Smith seems to be happy with the MOU. There's a disconnect there, right? He's trashing the major projects office, but the entire business community seems to be really happy to have that one window, that one-stop shopping outlet to be able to get through all the regulatory hurdles. This doesn't help him, right? The fact that there is an MOU, that there will be an MOU existing for pipeline coming from Liberals after they built TMX and after they got that first LNG project, Conservatives are starting to look bad on their alleged home turf here. So Danielle Smith is seemingly wanting to leave Pierre Poilievre in the dust in order to get this MOU again before her leadership convention, is an indication that some chess pieces might be moving on the board in ways that some people did not count on a few months ago. There is one more issue of damage control I wanted to mention, and I forgot to mention, but it also happens to have something to do with what's going on in Quebec. But in another party, because the first one is within the Liberal Party, there is a smaller party in Quebec provincial politics called Québec Solidaire. They have a certain number of MNAs. I have to remember how many. There's a certain number, maybe 8. For some reason, I have 8 in my head, but I don't know if I'm remembering polling. They had 12. Sorry, 12 seats. And there's a gentleman named Vincent Marissal who just left the party. According to the Canadian press, the left-wing Québec Solidaire party is reeling from the abrupt departure over the weekend of a legislature member who had been flirting with the Parti québécois. Vincent Marissal announced on Saturday he was leaving Québec Solidaire shortly after the party voted to suspend him from caucus for having talks with PQ leader Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon. Québec Solidaire legislator member Alexandre Leduc said today he's stunned by Marissal's departure and doesn't recognize who his former colleague has become. In lengthy messages on social media, fellow party members Guillaume Clichy-Rivard and Étienne Grandmont said they felt betrayed. Marissal said he was leaving Québec Solidaire in part because of the staunchly pro-union position it adopted during the recent Montreal public transit strike. But Leduc accused his former colleagues of flip-flopping, pointing out that Marissal in June voted against provincial legislation limiting the right to strike. Marissal is now an independent, leaving Québec Solidaire with 11 seats in the legislature. So it seems a little bit like Genereux. He was having talks with the leader of another party. Matt Genereux from the federal Conservatives was having talks with Prime Minister Mark Carney. So the rumor has it. Here it seems that Vincent Marissal of Québec Solidaire, left-leaning party, was having talks with the leader of the Parti québécois, Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon, about potentially joining. Again, we don't know if it's true. This would be a little interesting because Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon is staunchly on the record as having issues with floor crossers, so that these talks were even taking place was a kind of an interesting twist. It was hard for him to claim, that if he was taking Marissal in right away. So this might be a reason why he's sitting as an independent first. But somebody again, being upset and leaving the party. A little bit here. This is City News, Montréal. Rosemont MNA Vincent Marissal on Saturday that he was leaving the Québec Solidaire caucus and sit as an independent MNA until the next election. The now independent elected official confirmed his decision Saturday morning during a last-minute briefing at his constituency office. Quote, I had firmly decided a few days ago to leave the QS caucus. I plan to announce it to my colleagues in the caucus on Wednesday, Marissal explained. I'm just taking a different path. I'm not going to sit on my hands in that caucus and suffer because I've been suffering for some time, he said. The caucus's position during the Société de Transport de Montréal, or STM, strikes was the last straw. The MP criticized the party for its firm stance in support of the unions to the detriment of the population. Quote, I think we were on the wrong side of history. People were suffering in Montréal. They were sending us angry emails because they felt we had abandoned them, and I do think we abandoned them, he said. About 15 minutes before Marisal's announcement, Québec Solidaire announced that its caucus had voted unanimously to suspend the Rosemont MNA. Québec Solidaire said it had obtained information that Marisal had been in discussions with Parti Québécois leader Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon with a view to leaving the QS caucus and running as a PQ candidate in the 2026 election. Quote, Vincent Marisal has been secretly negotiating with the PQ for weeks to plan the next step in his political career. He never told us anything, lamented Québec Solidaire co-spokesperson Ruba Gazal in a press release. Quote, that's his right, but citizens also have the right to be able to count on members who respect the mandate given to them by voters. The only possible decision for me was to recommend his exclusion from the caucus. Marisal did not deny he had approached the PQ leader and had discussions with him. Quote, yes, I spoke to Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon, whom I have known for years. There's nothing attached to it. I have no announcement to make in that regard at this time, he acknowledged. The resigning Solidarity member had harsh words for his former party, criticizing it in particular for being ungovernable. Quote, it's a party that is paralyzed by its base, a party that is completely bogged down and unable to break free. There is a phenomenal distance between the caucus and the activist base, he said. The problem is that we are unable to bring this party back to a more rational position. Vincent Marisal was elected to the National Assembly in the 2018 election. Ironically, he defeated the then leader of the Parti Québécois, Jean-François Lisée. 4 years later, he was re-elected, winning by a majority of more than 5,000 votes over CAQ candidate Sandra O'Connor. Quote, I need to find the way to do politics constructively again, said the Rosemont MP. My only regret is that I didn't say so before, but I wanted to believe. So there you go. Damage control, damage control, damage control. People leaving parties, jumping ship, and all that stuff. Ah, kits and cubs. I think we have a show. I think that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. It means the world to us when you do. Kids and Cubs, a little note before we go as well. Just that I didn't want to put it in the democracy as something that you do, but in a little self-care here. Note, RSV, it's respiratory illness season, and RSV is a respiratory illness that can be especially dangerous for babies, also for seniors. It's respiratory syncytial virus, and Dr. Jesse Pappenberg, who's a pediatrician, says RSV might not be a household term for many families, but in pediatrics and in general practice, it is the number one cause of hospitalization year in, year out in children in their first year of life. Data from Quebec shows that the province's first immunization program using monoclonal antibodies shots for infants was a success, preventing likely half of the usual RSV-associated hospitalizations. And a recent review of real-world data from abroad shows similar results. According to Dr. Pappenberg, quote, and what they found was that it was over 80% effective. Let me try that again. And what they found is that it was over 80% effective at reducing the risk of emergency department visits due to RSV and hospitalizations due to RSV. There are also vaccinations available to mothers during pregnancy, which can provide protection to infants as well, but access to these new tools varies across the country. So yeah, a respiratory season, your flu shots, your pneumonia shots, your COVID shots for the winter season, because we're going back into enclosed spaces, and for the little ones, and if you're seniors, RSV shots, very, very important to do your best and your bit to keep the hospitals unclogged, but also this information, this data here, that the vaccines are indeed effective in reducing hospitalization visits, and that the data from Quebec also seems to confirm real world data as well. So just, information is knowledge, and when you have the right information, it helps you to make better decisions. So I just wanted to put that on the record for you, for anybody who is maybe not aware of RSV, or just not thinking of it and might have newborns and all that kind of stuff. If you can, and if vaccinations are on the menu for you, this is something that you might want to consider, considering how effective it appears to be. All right, kits and cubs. Let's see. I did the first part. I asked you to share our content, and we are very grateful that you do. And now I have to say, if you want us to help you, because sometimes you can't watch the show live with the Dam Fam or on your own time. Well, thanks to the Ray Girl, boom, right here. That QR code will bring you to our pod page, podpage.com/the true north eager beaver with a hyphen between each one of the words. If you go there and click on subscribe, and we have something fresh off the podcast bandwidth, our ears only version comes to you, and then you can pop us in your ears and take us with you. That way you can take on the day and remain informed at the same time. If you would like to help us get some cubs, well, we would certainly appreciate you taking a trip down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page. There is the QR code that's appearing right now. And going there and clicking on our buttons like, share, and subscribe. And if you're watching, remember, kids and cubs, if you smash now, you don't have to remember to do it before you leave. Kids, Elaine and Cassie would definitely approve, and it helps us with the algorithm when you click on our like, share, and subscribe buttons. And when the numbers go up, we get ourselves a little boost of happy. And remember, if you are watching, we do have memberships and super chat donations if you would like to support the show. And we thank you so much for it. Now, kids and cubs, if you would like to support us in other ways, say financially, because we do incur some costs to bring this show to you, and we would really be grateful for your assistance in covering those. Well, the way you can do that is by making a donation to the Eager Beaver Lodge's Emergency Hydration Fund. That QR code will bring you to our coffee page. That's coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word. And when you go there and make a donation to the Emergency Hydration Fund, well then, you do your bit to keep your favorite beaver nice and moist, because a moist beaver is a happy beaver. Isn't that right? Yeah. See, Beaver will tell you. So, thank you for all of your enthusiastic expressions of encouragement so that we could produce more content for you. And kids and cubs, if you are doing the Buy Canadian thing, hey, we support that. truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is our email address. You send us a donation directly through that from a bank to bank. It's a 100% Canadian transaction. No CE Tech Bros get a share of your money. And we get 100% of your donation, which means it goes further to bring you the content that you enjoy. And we thank you so much for everything you are able to contribute. No amount is too small. For those of you who are not able to contribute, yeah, let's try that again. For those of you who are not able to contribute financially, please do not worry, because the gifts of your participation and attention are the ones that mean the most to us. And we love to hear from you. So please write to us at truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com to let us know what you think about the show, good, bad, or ugly, and to offer us some guest suggestions. We really appreciate them, and we try to act on as many of them as we can. The guests don't always say yes, but we do send out the invitations, and we appreciate your suggestions, because you actually do recommend a lot of good guests. So very, very happy for your assistance with that. Also, kits and cubs, if you want to reach us via our socials, at True Eager at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge, on the Jitter, True North Eager Beaver on Facebook, our original home, and right here on Facebook, not Facebook, right here on YouTube, of course, on our channel. We also have the Instagram site started by Kit Uncover, and we also have the family Discord started by the Dam Fam itself. I'm sure they will put that information into the chat so that you can access them. Thank you for all of your support across all of our platforms. It really does mean the world to us, all the help that you are giving us in getting the word out. All right. Because democracy is something that you do, kids and cubs, petition E6689, House of Commons petition on ensuring that our members of parliament do not spread disinformation. 3 more days to sign this one, the 25th, the 26th, 7th, but early on the 27th, because it closes for signature at 9:58 a.m. And we have 43,574 signatures to date, kits and cubs. Let's keep this going and have a good final push. And for that, I will put the link in the chat right here, and you can go there if you haven't signed yet. And of course, Kitten Cubs, a House of Commons E6821, which goes until February 18th. So a little bit more time for that one. But that one is to urge a bill being tabled in Parliament that would make sure that media ownership laws, especially foreign ownership laws, are such that Canadian media should be by Canadians for Canadians and producing news or curating news that is in the best interest of Canadians. And that petition is now at 6,607 signatures and growing rapidly. And we thank you for your support on that one. Finally, Kits and Cubs, if you happen to be living on Prince Edward Island, as we have been mentioning, December 8th is by-election day there. We have early voting days on November 29th, so coming up soon, December 1st and December 5th, open from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. And this is for District 2, Georgetown Ponal. And the leader of the Liberal Party of British Columbia, Robert Mitchell, will be trying to get his seat in the legislature with this by-election. So there you have. Kits and Cubs, don't let your friends do democracy alone. Get out and vote, and we will definitely be bringing you the results once we have them after December 8th. All right, Kits and Cubs, could be a tough world out there. So, words of wisdom. My, I was going to leave you without wisdom. Not like I got much to spare, but Kits and Cubs, words of wisdom. I really don't know. Today, let me see what do I have for you today? What droplet may I have? Kits and Cubs. When we interact with people, we leave an impression on them. So today, in your interactions with others, try to make it such that their day is just a little brighter by virtue of the fact that they crossed your path than it would be otherwise. It could be a simple thing as just holding the door in the shopping mall, or if you're on the street, making eye contact and just giving a little nod, paying someone a compliment if you're in line at the cash. Oh, I really love that scarf, or something. But just a little something, or even you're at the cash and being served, and you're looking the person serving you straight in the eyes, and giving them a cheerful hello and a cheerful thank you at the end of the transaction. Just little things that you can do. Yes, be the person that makes everybody's day just a little brighter. All right, Kits and Cubs, that's all I got for you. It could be a tough world out there, so please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And now, at the count of 3, Kits and Cubs, please, may I have you, because this is the audience participation part of our show, may I have you say, Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock on 1, 2, 3. Oh, how beautifully done. Kits and Cubs, you melted my heart with that sweetness. How can I say no? I just can't. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community. And The Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right, Kits and Cubs, we have some news about some Canadians who make us proud, but before we do, there is one thing I did forget to mention that's a very essential piece of information with regard to what might be the upcoming MOU with Alberta and the Government of Canada with regard to the pipeline, with regard to Alberta accepting a higher industrial carbon tax. This might have a practical purpose as well. It would appear that for something like the Pathways project to be viable, a higher industrial carbon price would be needed to provide incentive to the companies to want to get involved in capture and storage of their carbon rather than just releasing it. So again, this might be a carbon price that it's less likely conservatives, at least in Alberta, rail against. Not sure what conservatives in Ottawa will do and whether or not that will create another split, because there's no way that the Pathways project would be viable without it. So that's another element that might be in play there. Just wanted to mention that because I was looking over my notes before we went on. Canadians who make us proud. Not too long ago, the Grammy Award nominations came out, and there is a lot of Canadian content this year. It seems that the lead nominee is Kendrick Lamar, but then there is the second leading nominee, and there might be a few that have this number, is actually a producer from Halifax named Circuit, who goes by Circuit, Cirkut, who has 7 nominations in total. One of the major ones being for Producer of the Year for non-classical music, and throughout the year, he has worked on such big hits as Abracadabra from Lady Gaga, Apate, Apate by Rosé and Bruno Mars, Big Sleep by The Weeknd featuring Giorgio Moroder, Disease, Lady Gaga, It Girl by Jade, A Little More by Ed Sheeran, Mayhem by Lady Gaga, Red Terror by The Weeknd. Yes, all these big songs over the course of the year. So yeah, he's one of the big nominees, but there are a couple of others here. Has a Canadian connection. Record of the Year, The Subway by Chapel Roan. It's the song in which she mentions Saskatchewan in particular, and had people from Saskatchewan writing her, and she made a commitment to come to the province at some point. For Album of the Year, Justin Bieber's album Swag has been nominated, and he has 4 nominations in total, including for Best Pop Vocal Album and Best Pop Solo for his song Daisies. Uh, and yes, Best Pop Vocal Album, of course, for Swag as well. And then I think there's another nomination for him, Best R&B Performance for his song Yukon, which I was wondering if it was about the territory, and I went to listen to it, and it's about those old vehicles that we used to have back in the day that were called Yukons instead when I was a kid. We also have dance artist Katrinada, nominated for Best Dance or Electronic Recording for Space Invader and Best Remix Recording for Don't Forget About Us. Tate McRae picked up a nomination for Dance Pop Recording for Just Keep Watching. The group Spirit Box, I believe it is, picked up a nomination for Best Metal Performance for their for Soft Spine, and it's their 3rd nomination in this category, by the way. So fans of metal, some content here at the Grammys. Party Next Door and Drake were nominated for Best Melodic Performance for Somebody Loves Me, and it would appear that for in the classical categories, Best Classical Solo Vocal, Amanda Forsyth was nominated for Telman Eno opera arias for soprano. She's a cello soloist who was born in the Republic of South Africa, but very, very, very young. I think at 2 years old, moved to Canada and was raised here. So lots of Canadian content to cheer for at the Grammys when they come out. And I guess if I'm doing the proper job at informing you, I should probably tell you when the Grammys are going to actually be held, right? Which is Sunday, February 1st, 2026. So there you go. We'll find out if there are any Canadians that bring home some hardware. And that's all I got for you, kids and cubs. So big hugs and kisses. Amour et bisous. And we will see you on tomorrow's show. Until then, rest well. I know I will be. I've earned it. And with that, I am gone. Bye.